when your thought, your emotion, and your behavioral action are aligned, it's easy. It doesn't have to be difficult because there's no resistance.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning! This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Oh, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and we are here for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of walking in victory, I want to talk to you about what we call like mindset transformation and what the neuroscience has labeled as creating new neural pathways. And that's purposefully, systematically using tools to intentionally give you a new way of thinking. And it's funny because earlier I was having a conversation about new ways of thinking and thought processes, right? And what we discovered is that as we start to think in a different way, we really are dying to the old way of thinking, because you can't have both living at the same time. Now, what that does not mean is that those old thoughts or those old thought patterns doesn't still exist. We just created a new pathway. And instead of thinking in one direction, we now think in a different direction. So someone who started off in the front end of a restaurant and now they're the general manager, just because they became general manager doesn't mean that they don't relate still somewhat to what front end responsibilities are. In fact, they may relate to it more because they understand the process. But they no longer think in that line because they've shifted the way that they think and the way that they view not just the front end, but the whole macro of the business, the macro view. So they go from just worried about the front end to having to see. So someone say, "Oh, you think you're better than us because you changed." No, I don't think I'm better than you. What changed is not my attitude towards the position, because I respected the position. I respect where I was because that was a part of my journey. But what changed is where I am now and the way that I view my journey. And what happens as we start to create these pathways or start to do these exercises, start to do things to help us to better ourselves, whether it's in finances, physical bodies, or whatever nuance, whatever niche nuance, or whatever it is that you're doing, you get so caught up in what it is that you're attempting to accomplish that it may look like you're off-putting or look like you lack understanding or compassion, and it may not necessarily be the case. So that's why it's important not only to work on your personal goals, whether they're financial or whatever, but to also stay grounded to your family, grounded, because how many of us have got so caught up in what it is that we want to, our ambitions, and we're trying to buy our love from our families. We can't be present. And I used to say that you can't, if you show me businessman of the year, they may not be father of the year. But as we evolve as a community, as a culture, as a country, we realize how important it is to be both businessman of the year and father of the year, or husband of the year, or boyfriend of the year, or whatever it is, because we do realize that we have other responsibilities outside of our goals. And that's the balancing act. That's the thing that we have to really attempt to navigate through. I was listening to Shannon Sharp, and I'll bring in our guest. And Shannon Sharp was saying that he was so focused on football when he was when that started out, he knew that he couldn't be good in a relationship because he dedicated all of his time, all of his energy into studying film, getting in the cold room, because he wanted to get his grandmama and make sure that he took care of his grandmama and the rest of his family. And he understood that bringing someone into his mentality would not be conducive for them. So someone may say, no, I can handle it. And everybody think they can handle it until they're there. And that's the thing that he never wanted to compromise. So I look at that and I say, oh, in one instance that may be like, feel like a sad way of being, but on the other instance, everybody has to do what they have to do. Dr. Salas, how are you, sir?
Good, and you? What's going on?
Nothing. What's up with you, man? If you don't mind telling our audience a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, my name is Dr. Alain Salas. I was born and raised in south of France, and I became a chiropractor. So I live in Kansas City, Missouri now since 1993, and I created a system. It's called the mind clearing system because, as you start to mention, the mind is so important. The mindset is so important. What we do, but what I found out, it's like there's a way to do this, right? And so I'm gonna explain more in detail whenever you're ready.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That was going to be my first question. When you say mind clearing system, first I want to talk about how did you go from working in the lower regions of the body or the external, well, the lower regions, the neck, the back, and then how did you develop, what was your journey from working on that side of the body to now working with the subconscious and the mind of the body?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Aaron. So what happened to me is like I became a chiropractor. I started to, do the chiropractic things, right? And people will get better, and after very soon they will plateau. And just to maintain the plateau, they will have to come to see me again. So to me, was not really. I was kind of written in a way because I wanted to be able to bring to my patient, transformation, like deep transformation, right? And that was not providing that. So what I realized soon in my, I've been doing that 28 years now. And what I realized very soon is like when you've got a problem in life, and it can be a health problem, it can be a relationship problem, it can be a prosperity problem. You need to know two things to resolve your problem permanently. Meaning that after you're done with a problem, you're moving on, right? So the number one thing that you need to know, Naran, is like you need to know what's causing your problem, right? If you don't know what's causing the problem, how can you fix it? There's no way, right? And number two, I just mentioned it, you need to know how to fix it. So when you know what's causing your problem and you know how to fix it, you're done with the problem, right? So this told me that, the chiropractic was not really going towards the main cause of this problem, right? It was only, like you say, more physical, right? So I started to investigate, and what happened, I started, why not, checking the inflammation in your body, right? So the stress, chemical stress, inflammation is the same thing. So I started to check people, I will do muscle testing. So the body will tell me which organ are under stress and what's causing the stress. And after doing that, I did have a pretty good practice, right? I was seeing 250 patients a week. I had 4 employees that I taught how to do things, right, to help me out. And well, the American dream, right? I was living it, a French guy from south of France, and coming and living the American dream, right? And so the big house in the best neighborhood and all that. I even like married my wife. She's from France too, and we met in a bar in Kansas. So the thing went, okay, never better, right? But I'm sure, Neron, you're a podcaster, so you heard so many different stories. I'm sure you heard about that before. It's kind of like, when you think you got it, well, something will happen to you. It sure did. You see what I mean? And so it sure did. And so within a year, actually, Aaron, I ended up because, I was so focused about working my mind, like you said, about Shannon Sharp, right? It was totally unbalanced, right? So I was focusing only on my job, and I was doing, my mission in life, right? I thought I was doing the right thing. But, when I was done with working and I was going home, I was there, but I was not fully present at all, right? So my relationship, guess what, went down the drain. And so within a year, Neuron, here's what happened to me. Within a year, so I ended up divorcing, right? And I had a daughter. So, when you got kids, it's not like a handshake, right? It's not that easy, right? And so I had that. And because I got depressed and I lost my juice, right? I mean, I cannot believe I'm saying that now. I really lost my juice, my passion. So I became depressed and clearly burned out. And so what happened, my practice went from thriving to failing. I ended up being the only one in that big office with a treatment room and all that. And the cherry on the cake, Neron, the cherry on the cake was I got diagnosed with early stage of colon cancer. So here I am. You will be one of my patients. I will tell you what to do to avoid this. And I'm doing obviously my own program. I got diagnosed with the number 2 killer in this country. I say, okay, all right. So that's what happened within a year. And that was the force behind, I just wanted to find out, because I know it was not the environment. I couldn't play the blame game and blame that on my wife and all that. I knew there was something deep within me that pushed me to sabotage my health, to sabotage my relationship, and to sabotage my prosperity, which later on led to mind clearing.
It's funny that you use the word sabotage, because a lot of times, especially we grew up in me growing up in New York City, in the inner city, where we build in excuses. We are the king of excuses, and it's everyone else's fault except for ours. And when you get to a certain age where you start to now have to be accountable, you have to make a decision. You can hold on to that mindset where if it wasn't for the teacher, like your son is locked up, but it's his friends. Those boys that he hang out with, no, but they home and he's gone. So we have to start to take accountability and stop sabotaging ourselves. When you started to go through your personal mind clarification, what was some of the things that you identified that was blocking you or sabotaging you? What was one of the first identifiers?
That's a very good question. But before I even ask that, I just wanted to find out what is the mind? Because we all talk about mind-body connection. We all talk about the mind. But what is it really what we're talking about, right? And so what I discovered very quickly, it's like we live in two different worlds at the same time, Neuron. So what do I mean by that? There's the outer world and the inner world, right? So what is the outer world? It's basically who you think you are, what we call your conscious mind, your self-identity, your personality, what you think you can or cannot do. It's also how you perceive your reality, right? And all that what you're aware of, basically, right? Your thought, your emotion, your behavior and action. So that's the outer world, right? And after there's one that is like mysterious. It's called the inner world. What I will call, to make it simple, the subconscious mind, right? So the subconscious mind role is to record everything you have been doing in your life from age 0 to now, Neuron. Everything is recorded there. Your skill as a podcaster, as a man, as whatever you do in life that requires skills are stored there, right? All the function in your body that are automatic, like your heartbeat, your breathing and all that, it's stored there, right? And so that's the mysterious, the secret subconscious mind. And so there's two things that I noticed that were like, if I can say that, mind-blowing to me. The first one, it's like your conscious mind will process data at 11 bits per second, right, in average. The subconscious mind processes data at 11 million bits per second. It's 1 million times more powerful. So I say, wow, what's that, right? And after the second thing, I mean, if you guys are standing up, please sit down because you're not going to believe your ears, what I'm going to say. If you make a ratio, like the ratio between the conscious mind, means who you are, who you think you are, right? And the subconscious mind, which is like the mysterious things of your mind. So according to who you're reading, Neuron, 5 to 10% of your mind is your conscious mind. Meaning that 90 to 95% of your mind is your subconscious mind. And yet what we focus on to transform ourselves to heal, and to grow, it's only 5 or 10% our mind, only our conscious mind. So my first thought was, Neron, let's bring the subconscious mind to the party, right? I think that will be pretty cool.
And it's funny because back in the day, they taught that the mind or the brain stopped developing after in certain adolescent age. And whoever you are, although the mind takes in all of the most of the computing from that age because it's pliable and it's getting downloading information. It's like a brand new computer and it's moving at a fast rate. We get older, it might slow down a little bit. The diet may be off, inflammation may be in the body. We might have some traumatic events that we stored away. And now we have this other information that's corrupting the computer, so to say. To the place where we get to the point where you're a year losing, you're going through the divorce, separation from your kids, dealing with the effects that all of these things take with the mind and how it plays out in the body. So most people think that the body gets unadjusted or unaligned first, and then the mind computes it. The real corruption happens in the mind, and now the body actually displays what's going on in the subconscious mind. How did you feel when you started to discover this, and how did it impact your life before you started helping others?
And so what I realized is like we can be programmed, right? We think that we love those things because blah, blah, blah. You can give some analytical reason, but bottom line, we are programmed. So let's for people to, because we're going to talk about programming here, right? So let's make the analogy of a computer and the mind, right? So let's pretend that the brain is your hard drive, right? Because your thought, your spirit is not in your brain. The brain is like an interface. So the brain is your hard drive. The software of your computer is the subconscious mind. The output of a software is your conscious mind. And the behavior is on the screen of life, right? So if you've got a good software, right, meaning that you've got positive programming, if you want, or positive mindset, like you mentioned before, right? If you do have a positive mindset, man, life is, you're going to love your screen of life. Hey, man, life is it's never better, right? I mean, just, yeah, no problem. But if your quality of programming is more negative, right? Like your more negative mindset, your screen of life will say, oh, man, life is hard. I have to suffer all the time and all that, right? So now the question, how can we get programmed, right? Well, especially around age 0 to 6 to 8 years old, depends who are reading, we are like sponges, right? I don't know if you've got kids, but I've got 8 years old. And he's like a sponge. He sponges like everything. And there's not too many filters yet, right, in the conscious mind. So they assume things. They assume that what they're seeing in the outside world is is correct or whatever. So they make assumption, and assumption are repetition of assumption become program. So you've got two kind of program there. The first one is like programs that are serving you, right? It's kind of like the mind is working for you instead of working against you. And we call that empowering belief, right? And after there's some other program that are not serving you any longer. At one time they were serving you, but now they're not serving you any longer. And those are called, so it's like your mind working against you. And we all had moments like that. You say, why I'm doing this? That's crazy, right? And so that's your mind working against you, right? And those are called limiting belief, right? And so let me give you an example, because for the audience, I think giving an example it will put a picture in their mind, right? So let's pretend there's a little girl that sees her dad coming back home drunk every night and beat up the mom, right? So my question to you, Naren, what that little girl, when she grows up and become a woman, right, what kind of romantic relationship she's going to attract?
She's gonna have the similar one that she experienced when she was a child.
Yeah, so 80%, maybe 90% of the people will agree with us, right? But now there's two comments I want to make on that. So the first comment is like, when you ask that woman and you say, hey, do you enjoy to get beat up like your mom? The conscious mind, she's going to say, heck no. But the subconscious mind has been programmed. Our men are predators and women are preys, right? So that's the first comment. The second is a question. How she's going to attract that guy? She's going to say, hey, you, shake his hand. Can you come and beat me up? Of course not, right? So it's kind of like neuron, our subconscious mind are connected. You know, when we say that you are all one in a way, that's what they meant. It's like the subconscious mind is connected. Doesn't mean that we have to love everybody, of course not. But we are connected. So the subconscious mind, unconsciously, she's going to say, hey, this guy, right? He's got a program that is a predator. And so this guy maybe has been bullied and now he's a bully. So you've got the reverse programming, right? Oh, she's a prey, right? It's like the subconscious mind communicate to each other. I'm going to make that woman and that man, you know, like we were talking about dancing, right? They're going to tango together, right? They're going to fall in love. So first, 3 different case scenarios that can happen to that woman now. Case scenario number 1, she married the guy or not, but it doesn't matter. She gets stuck with him for the rest of her life, right? We all know a relationship like this. I'm sure we do. Case scenario number 2, what may happen, she's going to be with that guy and say, oh, no, it's too much, go with another guy, Maybe she's going to kids along the way with men and stuff like that. And there's 2 kind of reaction I've heard in my office talking to so many women, right? So the first one will be, hey, Dr. Salas, I'm done with men. We are not good. No way, I'm this kind of relationship. That's too crazy. It's kind of like, you've got the fire, you got burned 1 or twice, I say, oh, I'm done with this, right? So they start to have an awareness, right? They start to have an awareness that, oh, no, this is not good for you. But it's not true healing. Remember, when you've got a problem, you need to find what's causing it and make sure that you know how to fix it, right? So the second thing which is true healing, that woman is going to attract a totally different man. A man that is kind to her, a man that is respectful, a man that see her for who she is, see her as an equal. And that's how you know that's how she will know that she'll be healed, because you can learn from your life experiences, of course, right? And case number 3, scenario number 3. She may find somebody like that, but instead of having all that suffering all the time that she need to learn by herself, and maybe no guarantee that she will heal on case scenario number 1, she will never heal from that, right? So we can reprogram, right? We can, number 1, what we do, we delete it's like a program in a computer that doesn't work for you. What do? You delete the program. Number 1, we delete the limiting belief. Number 2, we download our empowering belief, right? So you delete what you don't want, you download what you want, and you make sure you create that on the screen of life, right? You make sure that it's going to manifest that you create in your life, which is step number 3. Does it make sense to you?
Yes, yeah, and I like the way that you're using not just the computer for the mind, but the screen for how we view our worldview. Because a lot of times people argue like this whole free will concept. And I asked them, well, why do you think advertisers spend millions of dollars, line up to get us one Super Bowl for 20 seconds? And a lot of people don't understand it. Oh, they want to make us laugh. No, they want to make a commercial. They know they got millions of people watching. They want to create a commercial that's so good that the next morning, everybody subconsciously go out and get whatever it is that made them.
And that's the key word, subconsciously. We don't realize how often we're manipulated. We're just not even aware of, and yeah, there's so much to say about that. But for sure, I just want to talk about science a little bit, or research, when they do, like, let's see the drug company, let's say there's a drug, right? And so there's a drug, so I'm a part of a trial, and there's a drug that if I take that pill, I will have no heartburn, right? So I'm like, there's maybe 1,000 participants, right? And so I take a pill, and I have no heartburn. That stuff is working. But you know what they tell me? They told me, well, but this was only the sugar pill. So the belief is called the placebo effect, right? Because they know about that. So the placebo effect, right? So it means that the belief, right? The belief that the pill will heal me and will prevent me to have any heartburn, it was enough. So we have a placebo. That's how true healing works. Then say, oh my goodness, the placebo effect. Yeah, that's how, if you can make the mind believe, that for positive thing, because you do your reprogramming anyway, that's what you want, right? To get what you want, you will. And the placebo effect is, they already know about it. You see what I mean?
Well, and it's funny because we come up with these sayings, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't. And but science,
That's not true.
well, life has proven to us how many times people change careers, have to go back to school. It may take a little longer to process, but they're imputing new information and applying it. And that's all we're doing. That's what we're talking about if you're listening. How do we feed the subconscious mind new information that helps us to overcome whatever's limiting us? These are the limiting beliefs, believe it or not, because when we talk about core values, we always want to talk about the good core values. What are your core values? And people want to, but the limiting beliefs are a part of your core values because that's who you are. And how do you change those core values that are slugging the computer down? As Dr. said, take out some information and replace it with new information. Take out some worldviews and replace them with new worldviews. What are some of the common things that you see hinder people from believing that this is possible?
Well, first of all, I've learned soon in life, you cannot convince it, right? You cannot make people change their mind. If they decided, okay, that's what you believe. But I will say, okay, the way I did, it took me 3 years to refine that technique, right? And the way I did, because there's a misconception about limiting belief. The first misconception, like you mentioned, you don't need to know don't need to identify the limiting belief. You just need to replace one by the one that is empowering, right? Because how are you gonna use your analytical mind, which, remember, it's only 5 to 10% of your mind, to crack the code of 90 to 95% of your mind? I mean, good luck. The odds are not, they are against you. Let's face it, right? That's pretty, they're against you, right? And so the problem with what we think limiting belief is, we think it's only, I'm not good enough, I'm too old for this. No, limiting belief let me ask a question. Can limiting belief create pain in your body? You bet you. Can limiting belief create symptom in your body? You bet you. Can limiting belief create some inflammation in your body? Oh yeah, I've seen that all the time. I treated somebody today about that. Okay. Number two, can limiting belief can prevent you to reach your goal? Oh yeah, for sure. They are the one that holding you back, for sure. Can they prevent you to reach the success that you deserve? 200% for sure. So limiting belief, it's not only, if you Google it and you will see all limiting belief, about self-esteem, it's a program. So the program can affect your mind in so many different ways. So it can affect your pain, right? And so the way I was using the pain, because pain is immediate feedback, right? Either you got the pain or you don't. Either it goes away, it stays, right? So I was using pain a lot, like the neck pain. Okay, I was treating that. by reprogramming the mind, and the way you have been told to do it is not it's good luck. That's what I'm saying. Because what they tell you to do is like, okay, you need to journal, right? And after you need to do lots of affirmation, repetition, and hope for the best. So it's kind of like we've got the audio and the video right now, right? So let's pretend we cut out the audio and I'm trying to explain what I'm explaining you right now, right? I'm going to use sign language, use, writing and all that. I mean, it's not, good. So I had to find how the subconscious mind communicate. And I thought about dreams. And what do you remember of a dream? There's always a picture associated with that. Always, or a series of pictures, right? I never had anybody say, hey, Dr. Salas, I remember only the smell of my dream. It doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why the subconscious mind, remember, is 1 million times faster, because it just connects the picture with all the symbolism that you cannot even describe writing it down, because it tap the subconscious collective, it tap what we call the archetype, it tap into so many different things, right? So what I will tell you, let's see if you've got low back pain and you have heard of me, you say, oh, I'm going to give it a shot, right? And so I will say, okay, Neron, what you need to do, you need to visualize, take a picture. You have to be in this picture. And you need to see yourself having the worst low back pain ever. So what we'll do, when you're done visualizing, what we call, that's going to be the representation of your limiting belief. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So that's going to be the representation of your limiting belief. And after I created literally a program, right, to delete that limiting belief, but we're going to customize that program to you. So, but you are the one who's going to send the program to that picture. Meaning that I'm only guiding you. I'm not telling you what to do at all. I'm just guiding you. I'm empowering you to heal yourself, truly, right? And after, when we're done with deleting the limiting belief, the second step is like to download an empowering one. So I will say, okay, Neron, now you see that picture, that negative picture. I want you to visualize the opposite of that picture. And I want to make sure that you love that picture, right? I will even ask you number, 1 to 10, 10, you love it a lot. What will be the number, just to make sure? And that's going to be the symbolism, the representation of what you truly want, your empowering belief, right? You can be walking on the beach, you can be doing yoga, you can be doing lifting weight, whatever it means to you to be maybe powerful or whatever it is, right? So I'm not interfering. First of all, the negative picture, that's your private life. I will never ask you what it is. That's not my business. If somebody kill another person and want to get rid of that things, that's not my business. I'm just here to help people regardless, right? So that's private. The empowering one, that's your picture also. If you need help, I can, but that's really your picture. And after we will customize again a program to download your empowering belief to your subconscious mind, right? And after, for the third thing, which is to create on the screen of life, we'll download another program for you that is customized to you again, right? Does it make sense?
Yes. And for those of you, just remember, it's like when he says download the next program, we're changing the channel, right? The program is, or think about it, if you're watching, if you watch terrestrial television, I don't know who does, without streaming, when if a program comes on from 3 to 4, at 4 o'clock, they change the program. They don't care that you wasn't there. Hey, wait a minute, I wasn't there. The program is going to start without you, and that's what happens with the subconscious mind. I'll give you an example, and doctor, you can let me know if I'm right or wrong. You know that the light is off. The light doesn't work. But every day you walk by the outlet, that's the room that you go into, you hit the light switch. So subconsciously now you know they got to change the light. And you may have said the last time you was in that room, oh man, I got to change the light. But you said that in your conscious mind because you walked into a dark place, so now you walk by the wall again and you hit the switch and the light doesn't come on. What program, what is the next thing that the other person going to do or say? You don't often forget that room. You're going to say, oh man, I got to change the light. And you might go out again without changing the light because we're in a loop. We're replaying this program.
Yes.
over and over again.
So what I
How
want
do you
to add
help
on,
people get out of the loop?
what I
Yeah.
want to add on that is like, basically, it's like whose subconscious mind. Let's see now how the mind works. Let's go to the loop because I think it's a very interesting what you're saying, right? So the loop. So we've got. Let's imagine a triangle, right? You've got a triangle here, right? At the center of a triangle, you've got limiting belief, right? So on the top of a triangle, you're gonna have negative thought. Those are limiting belief, right? So on top of a triangle, you're gonna have negative thought. On the right side of the triangle, you're gonna have overwhelming emotion, right? And on the left side of the
Mm.
triangle, yeah, if you got negative thought, you cannot have positive emotion. It's not possible. So you're gonna have
Yeah.
overwhelming emotion responding to the negativity of the thought, right? And after on the left side, what you're gonna have non-desirable behavior, which gonna lead to unproductive action. Let me give you an example. Let's say my dad told me you're a loser, right? So my limiting belief, I'm a loser. I'm gonna think I'm a loser, right? I'm gonna feel like a loser. I'm gonna behave like a loser, and I'm gonna have loser result, which gonna reinforce the feeling that I'm a loser. And I said, "Man, I knew I was a loser, but that bad, right?" And so that's what I call the subconscious stress loop. And we caught up on those loop. And so, we may think because our ego thinks that way, right? Our conscious mind thinks, oh, I'm doing this because blah, 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 blah. I say, no, 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 no. Your program make you do this. Meanings what? Your past. Because what those program was about, especially on limiting belief, what are they? They are trauma, they are challenging, they are things that are limiting us, right? Holding us back, right? And so it's like, so this is so important. Our past are defining our present and molding and shaping our future. So it means the big issue here is with our past. We live in the past. We are still stuck in the past. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm a military guy, right? And I go to Iraq and I pull the trigger and I kill my best friend by accident. I'm coming back to America. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, right? I'm a mess. I'm depressed. I feel so guilty, so ashamed. I lose my relationship with my wife. Look at the Vietnam vet, right? The Vietnam vet. Man, they were like homeless. I lose my job, and I've got all those horrifying memories. About like Rambo. Like Rambo, when he just wake up with nice sweat and remember that he has been tortured by the Viet Cong, right, or the Vietnamese people, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? And so, what does it mean? It means it's still a part of my soul, neuron. It's still a part of
Mm.
who I am that is stuck there, still pulling on that trigger. So, what the mind clearing does, I call that the past you. What the mind clearing does, bring back that memory to the present, like that. We delete that memory. It's gone. PTSD is gone. It's not complicated. When you talk the same language by the subconscious mind, you can do miracles. We are talking about mindset. Do you think that it will be much easier to have a subconscious positive and abundant mindset, right? If we do have that, if we program that into our mind, of course, after we're going to have a positive, abundant mindset in our conscious mind. Easy, right? We always say, oh, you have to work hard. You have to. Who says who? When your thought, your emotion, and your behavior and action are aligned, it's easy. It doesn't have to be difficult because there's no resistance. If I'm saying in my head, I'm saying, okay, well, I'm sharing that with you. And Aaron, I'm thinking about starting a diet. Ryan needs to lose like 20 pounds. Okay. So in my head, I'm starting a diet. But after saying you that, I was going to say, man, last time you did a diet, you gain the weight back in 3 weeks, right? And you get more weight. So my emotions gonna take place and they're gonna misalign. And so probably not action. So the mind clearing will treat that emotion, right? We treat the mind, make sure that the mind, the feeling, the emotion, and the behavior and action are aligned. And when those are aligned, From the subconscious mind, you are unstoppable.
That's amazing, because to have that type of alignment for some may seem impossible, because we're so used to looking at somebody else's alignment like, oh man, they got it all together, and they have limiting beliefs. We all have them. They're just some
Yes.
people just have tools that we're talking about to help them get through it better. My last question for you: over your
Yes.
career, as you moved from the physical body and started to do the mind body connection, or the conscious subconscious to body connection, what were some of the books that impacted you, or some of the training and teaching that helped you to really go like,
That's such a good question. And I will say none. So let me
no,
explain what I mean. Let me explain what I
yeah,
mean. It's like when you got use the knowledge, so higher that the knowledge that I got, because when I started to get insight, right, and do things, I always did that in my life. That's the way it is. I don't know how to explain it. So I had some insight, and I was started to do things with my patient, right, and things like that. So I've got this, and after when I started to get rid of some pain, sometimes it wouldn't last and all that, because now we can get rid of pain for like 70 to 80% of the people in 2 visits. It's gone. We're done with it. That's how efficient it is, right? So, a hoarding, what woman who had hoarding, you can go on my website, themindclearing.com, right? You go on testimonial, one treatment, she's done with hoarding. Now the house is like really good. I mean, I'm not, you're going to think it's crazy, but it's not, because we use only 5 or 10% of our mind. So when you bring 90 to 95% of your mind, we don't. Okay, one thing I want to share with everybody, we don't realize how powerful we are. We have been told that we are only a conscious mind. We've been told that's all we are. But let's pretend, even with people who don't believe in God. But look, let me zoom out. So let's pretend there's the sun, and the sun is always there. And spark of the sun, it becomes your spirit. And after you've got the sky with a cloud, and after you've got me and you physically on this earth, right? And so some people, they've got so many clouds, they think the sun doesn't exist. He has never been there. They never experienced it. Fair enough, right? So what are those clouds? They have a limiting belief. We have a limiting belief. So when we get rid of the limiting belief, now you can start to feel the warmth of the sun. Now you can have a glimpse of the sun, which is your divine aspect, which is your spirit. And more you get rid of limiting belief, more you're connected to your spirit. And after you finally realize that you are not only 5 or 10% of your mind, you are not only your ego, you are spirit living a physical experience.
there you have it, everybody. I told you we sit you at the feet of the masters. The website is there in our description. Go and soak up all of this information. You have someone who's repaired their own lives using these methods, and continues to help people from all walks of life to change and transform. Because we're not talking about change, so I want to use the right word. We're talking about transformation, and transformation is not limited. Transformation is eternal, because once you learn something, you don't unlearn it. You might not do it, but you never unlearn it. So we want you to get that information. So stop making excuses. Don't walk with your head down. We don't ask you for Cash Apps, Venmos, or any of those things. But what we do ask is that you hit like, share, and subscribe to this platform, wherever platform you're listening to us on. And if you are listening on a platform where you can leave a review, please leave that review. It helps us get into the algorithms. It helps us to be heard, so that information like this can get into the hands of people that really, really need it, such as you, such as myself, and at one point, such as Dr. Salas. Enjoy the rest of your day. Don't walk with your head down.
Thank
Don't
you,
walk making
Nero.
excuses. Walk in victory. Peace, everybody. Thank you again, Doctor.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.